The bond between Diana and Matthew seems to strengthen, much to Diana's liking. But the creatures lurk in the corner, waiting for Diana to show any weakness they can use against her. What will Diana do now? Will she completely trust Matthew and let herself go? Or will she run away from her destiny as she has always done? The episode begins with Matthew searching for Diana in her second home, Oxford Library. She was not present there, but he did find many creatures waiting for her. He understood the situation and decided to pick Diana up from her faculty apartment for a small getaway from all the madness. The slightly swooned Diana is about to reply when her friend, or ex-friend, calls her. Diana excuses herself and decides to talk to Jillian, but with the recent betrayal, she is still very resentful. Jillian tries to persuade her that Knox is not as bad as he seems. He is the one taking care of the witch community and only wants its betterment. Diana realizes that her friend has been brainwashed to the brim. To anger Jillian, she agrees with Matthew's offer and decides to go with him. Jillian sees this as Diana siding with an enemy and gets frustrated over her friend's childish antics. On the other hand, Diana is very happy with her decision because she gets to see the other side of Matthew, one that only some people have seen. Diana gets excited over seeing Matthew's place brimming with historical artifacts and events, and she asks many questions to get to know him better. She learns that Matthew is French and lost his father and sister a long time ago. Matthew, in the flow of comfortable conversation, tells Diana his real name to make her happy. While they both relax with each other, Matthew asks a few questions about how Diana called Ashmole 782. Diana tells him she did not cast any spell. In fact, she was always a very lousy spellcaster. However, Matthew is more experienced than Diana gives him credit for. He soon figures out that Diana's magic is instinctive, which means that it only works when her instinct tells her to. Diana gets somewhat excited with the revelation because it clears out most of the previous accidents. Back in the Venice congregation, Sadhu seems to be at the headquarters, where the respective head of the creatures have meetings regarding their safety. She is officially in the big games and goes directly to the archives to figure out more about a certain powerful witch. While Diana's aunt casts a spell to figure out her whereabouts, they find that she is with Matthew. Upon finding this, both aunts get worried about their precious niece. They call Diana to express their worries, and she defends Matthew by saying that she feels safe around him. In the middle of Diana's chaos, we see a glimpse of a small shop where a pregnant woman named Sophie is drawing a symbol that we previously saw in Ashmole 782. She returns home to her husband, Nathaniel, who is working on a chat room made for demons. They both get excited over the response they get in the room. She shows him the image of the symbol and says that it resembles the figure her family has been protecting for generations. The next day, Marcus is waiting for Diana outside her apartment. It seems like Diana became the favorite subject of vampires overnight. He convinces her to give them her witch blood so they can test it. She gets convinced, on the condition that he tell her what Matthew likes to eat. Marcus takes Diana on food shopping, telling her everything Matthew likes, and Diana gives him her blood. But as the blood is about to be taken, Matthew comes to the lab and claims that he should be the only one who should take Diana's blood. Somehow, a simple act of taking one's blood turns into a romantic thing with those two. On the other side, Sophie's mother-in-law, Agatha, comes to meet her son and daughter-in-law. Nathaniel complains that his chat room got taken down and asks if she did it. She denies any interference, but she is interrupted by Sophie, who shows her the small statue. She says that she feels like her duty is to give this to one who deserves it, but she does not know where to start. Agatha decides to help her and will talk about it in the next congregation meeting. At night, Diana prepares for the much-awaited dinner with Matthew. But before the guests can arrive, Knox visits her. The visit was brief, and he leaves when Matthew arrives. The dinner is filled with romantic tension between the two. A little tipsy and bold, Diana asks him what she will taste like. Matthew's eyes darken, and Diana gets chills. She then comes closer and slowly kisses him. But Matthew does not reciprocate. If anything, he refrains himself. He leaves shortly afterwards, leaving Diana confused and slightly embarrassed. The next morning, Diana is still processing the previous night's dinner when she gets a mail. In the envelope, there are gruesome and disgusting photos of her parents' deceased bodies. She goes straight to Ghislaine, who, again, tries to defend Knox, but Diana threatens that she will deal with him herself. Matthew then comes to her room and sees the door cracked open. He then senses that something is wrong and sees the envelope of Diana's parents. He smells Knox on the envelope and understands that it's his plot to agitate Diana. Angry and fuming, Diana asks for Ashmole 782. But she sees that Knox and his team of witches, including Jillian, are waiting for her. But the book is still missing, and seeing all of them, Sean asks the other witches to leave the library. Knox makes him unconscious, and Diana thinks that he took his life. Looking at his supposedly deceased body, she gets increasingly angry. Suddenly, strong winds echo through the library, making everyone stumble. But soon, the magic becomes hard to handle for Diana, and at the moment, Matthew comes to her aid. He calms her down by embracing her in a hug and takes her home. Diana is resting after her energy-consuming stunt, and Matthew decides that she has to learn to control her power somewhere safe. Talking to Marcus, he says that him and Diana will leave for France and live in his family home. Marcus warns that taking a witch to vampire territory will displease the convent, but he only replies that he never felt caring for someone like her. When she wakes up, Matthew tells her about his plan and finally kisses her with all his passion. They hold hands and leave for France soon after. Our favorites finally decided to act on their impulses and kissed for the very first time. And it was as passionate as we thought. But a storm brews on the outside, and they both are aware of it. Before that, Diana and Matthew have to deal with the demons that exist between them. What will Diana do after she finds out about Matthew's hidden past? And how will Matthew react after finding out Diana's backstory is much more complicated than it seems? This episode begins with Matthew and Diana entering the family estate, where Matthew's mother, Isa de Clermont, is waiting for them. She is a prim, slim, and stoic woman who is too cold towards Diana, and understandably so. Her son brought a witch, an enemy, to his family home to protect her. The family housekeeper, Marthe, also greets the couple, but she is the complete opposite of Isa. Matthew announces that Diana will be sleeping in his tower, making Isa raise her eyebrows over her son's overprotective actions. Back in Oxford, Juliet is at Marcus's apartment for Matthew, and there, they have a small fight. But Miriam comes to Marcus's rescue and asks her to move on from Matthew. In France, Matthew confronts his mother and says not to harm Diana, and he does not want to fight with her. Isa agrees with the no fighting part, but she shows her disapproval of Diana because of her distrust of witches. It is then revealed that the witches took the life of Matthew's stepfather during World War II, and since then, Isa has not been a huge fan of the witch clan. Meanwhile, while Diana is sleeping, she dreams of her mother and wakes up distorted. She calls her aunts and says that she left Oxford because of Knox and his harassment. Her aunts do not like that she is with Matthew, but they are relieved because Knox was oddly obsessed with her parents as well. However, her aunt, Sarah, quickly points out that Isa was responsible for witch hunting in the late 20th century, after her husband passed away. Diana gets spooked, but she is passionate about Matthew and wants to give him the benefit of the doubt. She confesses to him about his mother's past, and Matthew does not deny any of it. But he assures her that the Hunts are not related to Diana's past. Instead, he gives her new information regarding her parents. Upon digging, he found a witch circle around their bodies, indicating that they were taken out by their own kind. This obviously scares Diana, who takes some time to think. On the other hand, Knox calls an emergency congregation meeting in Venice, where 3 leaders of each clan come to participate. There, Knox argues that the laws have been broken by Matthew, who kidnapped a witch to his estate. He demands Diana be returned to her clan and Matthew be punished for his crimes. Gerbert and Domenico share secret stares, indicating that they know something others don't. Upon hearing that Diana extracted the Book of Life, everyone gets confused, yet alarmed, and now want Diana for themselves. However, it seems like Matthew is guarded in the congregation as well, when his brother, Baldwin, defends him. He says that a congregation member will be sent to his estate to retrieve Diana. Diana, after suffering from the initial shocks, goes for a horse ride with Matthew, on none other than Isa's previous horse. It is apparent that they both enjoy each other's company a lot, and the ever-so-composed Matthew even lets out a few seconds of laughter seeing Diana. Later that night, they all sit for a fancy dinner and chat afterwards. Matthew gets comfortable with the family and asks his mother for a dance. They both seem masters at that, and Diana swoons over the new side of Matthew. He then asks for a dance from her, to which she hesitantly agrees. She says she is not a dancer, but Matthew guides her, and they both have fun. And to add to the magic, Diana starts glowing, to which everyone gasps. Matthew is awestruck by her and her powers, and they both laugh. Later, on a quiet stroll, Diana and Matthew discuss light-hearted things. Matthew suddenly kisses Diana. It seems that they had both been waiting for this moment for the whole night. But their night is destroyed when Matthew senses someone following them. It turns out that Domenico was sent to retrieve Diana, but Matthew refused to hand her over. Domenico then uses the thread of covenant, and Diana stares at him, confused. It is evident that she was not aware of the covenant. Matthew asks her to leave and touches her cheek in affection. Diana refuses to do so, but Martha forces her inside. Matthew then captures Domenico, saying that he does not care about the congregation, and will not leave Diana. Domenico leaves but threatens that no one is immune from death. Matthew tells Diana that the covenant is a 1,000-year agreement, which forbade interspecies relationships to maintain the balance of power. Diana asks, what if the agreement is broken? But Matthew says that no one has broken it. In fact, the covenant will never break. He then announces that back in Oxford, his lab has been broken into, and he needs to take care of it. Diana asks him if it's so easy to throw everything away for an ancient tradition. She says she loves him, but his reaction is not at all romantic. He leaves the place, leaving Diana chasing his car. They are both distraught. Suddenly, the sky is covered with thick clouds, and it starts pouring. Isa and Marthe see it and are amazed by her power.